Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman. I'll hand the meeting over to yourself. We're now live streaming. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to Breckland Council's virtual planning committee meeting for today, December the 14th. This meeting will be live streamed on the council's social media channels and will be recorded. Once you join the meeting, please remain on mute, which avoids any unnecessary background noise disturbing the meeting. Controls to mute and unmute are displayed on your screen. At the end of this presentation, Julie Britton, Democratic Service Officer, will take the roll call to confirm attendance. Could you please ensure that you unmute your microphone before speaking to confirm attendance and then mute your microphone, as no response will assume that a planning committee member is not in the meeting. Sorry, got a bit of a flashing camera there. I don't know what's going on. Each application has an allotted time slot. There may be an occasion when the time runs over and therefore attendees will remain in the waiting room until such time their application is ready to be heard. If for any reason the discussion finishes earlier than the time slot given, the meeting will be paused. I will work through the agenda, inviting the ward member, applicant, etc. to introduce and speak on each item as appropriate. Attendees for each application will be held in the waiting room until such time that application is heard. Ward members in attendance who have registered to speak on an application will be asked to speak last. A speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes, or in the case of more than one objector or supporter wishing to speak, up to a maximum of 3 minutes in total will need to be shared. Where an applicant and their agent intend to speak, the 3 minutes is split between the two, other than when speaking. Speakers will remain on mute. If you try to speak when not invited to, you may be required to leave the meeting. I will then check with Democratic Service Officer in attendance. If there are any members who wish to ask a question, please do so this by clearly raising your hands, and please remain on mute until invited to speak. I will seek declarations of interest in the usual manner. Members with the declaration should indicate this by raising their hand. The Democratic Services Officer in attendance will invite the councillor to unmute and declare their interest to the chairman. This councillor will at the relevant time be removed from the meeting and placed in the virtual waiting room until discussion and voting on that item has completed, after which they will return to the meeting. Once the application has been discussed and all questions answered, I will ask for a proposer and a seconder. This again will be done by raising your hand. The Democratic Service Officer will then invite each councillor to speak in turn. If any member should experience IT issues during the presentation and does not ask for it to be repeated, they will be unable to vote on the application. For each item, all members will need to confirm that they have heard the application in full before the vote is given. A roll call will be given for each member to cast their vote, either for, against, or abstain. Please can I remind members that they will need to unmute themselves when responding. I'll now go over to Julie Britton, Democratic Services, to take the roll, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Wilkin.
Here.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Here.
Councillor Atterwill.
Here.
Councillor Bowes. Councillor Brain. Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen.
Present.
Councillor Clark.
Here.
Councillor Crane.
Present.
Councillor Dale.
Present.
Councillor Dygan. Councillor Gilbert.
Here.
Councillor Martin. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
What about me?
Okay.
Councillor Monument is here too.
Sorry, Chairman, I was going to mention the substitutes in attendance under the apologies.
Yes, lovely. Thank you. Hold hard, Councillor Monument. We will get you in a moment. First item is item 1 is the minutes. To agree the minutes, I gather you've all read them. Does anyone have anything they wish to raise? If not, can I have a show of hands in agreement to the minutes, please? Just a show of hands.
That's carried, Chairman.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Item 2, apologies and substitutes, please. Julie?
Thank you, Chairman. I have apologies from Councillor Brame, Councillor Dygan and Councillor Keith Martin. And in attendance as substitutes are Councillor Kybird and Councillor Linda Monument.
Okay, thank you very much for attending, guys. Item 3, declaration of interest and representations that have been received, I will take as the items are raised. Item 4, Chairman's announcements. Well, I have only one announcement, and that is there are 11 sleeps to enter. Okay, I know I do this in January and February as well. I tell you, there's about 300 odd. There's only 11 now, so as I say, gird your loins. Hold on, there's only 11 nights to go. Okay, terrific. Item 5, request to defer applications. Rebecca.
Chairman, I thought you were going to mention Gemma Manthorpe in your chairman's announcement.
Oh.
Would it be appropriate to do that or not?
Yes, of course you can. Sorry, everything's got shifted about here, so I've had to rewrite. But yes, Gemma Manthorpe is on maternity leave at the moment. I'm not sure when her baby's due.
Wednesday.
But
Wednesday.
Oh, crumbs. We might have a Christmas baby if she holds on. So just look out over Breckland in case you see a star and 3 blokes riding up the street with on camels. You'll know what's going on. Okay, thanks for reminding me of that. And I will hand back to you now for requested deferment on item 5, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And obviously, councillors, if you've got any queries that you would have directed to Gemma, please do feel free to come to me at any point. With regard to request to defer, we would like to request, Chairman, to defer application 10A at Dereham, land off Westfield Road, Dereham, 3PL 2019-1526/D. We've had a legal representation sent to us late last week, and we'd like to defer the application while we consider its contents, please.
Okay, that's fine. I think that's understandable. I hope members appreciate the delay in that item. Thank you. Item 6, do we have any items of urgent business, please? None at all. Okay, thank you. Item 7, we have a local plan update. I've got, should have Simon Wood and Andy Darcy. I'm not sure if they're sharing or one's going first or second or they're going to do a duo. But I'll hand over to you guys.
Thank you, Chairman. If I can just come in very quickly, there is no update on the local plan from the previous update, and Andy Darcy will do a short presentation in respect of the council's 5-year housing land supply position. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you. Oh, just 1 second, Councillor Atterwell.
Very quickly, Chairman, thank you for that, Simon. At I think it was the cabinet meeting or overview and scrutiny, I can't remember, you said you were going to write to me just to confirm what work your officers are actually working on at the moment. You said there was work ongoing on the local plan, and I'm still waiting for that. I know you're a busy man, but I just thought I'd remind you I'm still waiting. Thank you.
Thank you for the nudge, Councillor. I'll get that organised. Apologies.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Andy, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the next item on the agenda, the 5-year housing land supply report update. The report is before you, but very briefly going through that. Just bear with me a second while I find where my mouse is. The 5-year land supply report. The context for the update is that local planning authorities have to identify and update annually its supply of deliverable sites that should meet a minimum of 5 years worth of housing against whatever the housing requirement is for Breckland district, including any shortfall. As far as the requirement aspect is concerned, the adopted local plan sets out that the district requires 612 dwellings per annum. So over the next 5 years, that would equate to 3,060 dwellings. To that figure, we then have to add any shortfall in cumulative delivery that the district has experienced since the beginning of the local plan period, which is 2011, and that equates to 866 dwellings. And then to that, we have to add either a 5, 10 or 20% buffer, depending on previous historic delivery. And in Breckland's case, because we have a strong housing delivery test return of 117%, that is a 5% buffer. So in terms of wrapping the requirement element up, we have the 612 dwellings per year for 5 years. To that, we then add the 866 dwellings shortfall, which gives us a 3,926 figure. And then to add to that, we add 5%, which gives us a total requirement over the next 5 years of 4,122 dwellings. We then move on to the supply side. And for this calculation, we consider sites that have planning permission, both major sites, which are 10 or more dwellings, and minor sites. We then can look at local plan allocations, which are yet to get planning permission, but ones which are subject to undetermined planning applications. And then we look at windfall developments, which are developments which are not allocated in local plans, that come along as speculative applications, which we can then take consideration of, depending on how strong historically Breckland has seen delivery from such windfall sites. So the report sets this out in detail, but first of all, looking at planning permissions, in October 2020, there were outstanding planning permissions for over 13,500 dwellings on major sites, including 9,000 on the 2 sustainable urban extensions at Attleborough and Thetford, and 978 dwellings had planning permission on small sites. There were also 617 dwellings on sites remaining in the local plan without some form of planning permission. So looking at, first of all, the major sites with planning permission, sites of 10 or more dwellings, we sought to contact all of the agents or developers of such sites to try and get an understanding of their delivery expectations on those sites. We had some replies, some didn't, and they are broken up in the appendices to the report. But in total, we consider that 4,380 dwellings can come forward on major sites. And where developers or agents did not confirm delivery rates, we have applied a cautious 25% discount rate on our figures in order to try and take account of unconfirmed delivery. On smaller sites of less than 10 dwellings, we consider that 886 will come forward over the next 5 years. And again, we have applied, as historically the district has done so, a 10% lapse rate, because obviously not all will come forward. So we've applied that lapse rate on those minor sites. And then sites in the local plan with undetermined applications, a small total of 216. But again, because of the uncertainty around those, a 25% discount has been applied. So in windfalls, based on historical trends, we have agreed or consider that a total of 242 dwellings on windfall sites will come forward over the next 5 years, starting in year 3, so there's no sort of duplication with sites that have planning permission. This gives us a grand total on the supply side of 5,724 dwellings. And again, the appendix to the report sets all these out in a table over the next 5-year period. And then in terms of how that equates to a 5-year housing land supply, as I said previously, we have a requirement of 4,122 dwellings, a supply of 5,724 dwellings, and that would give the district, based on a 5-year land supply, based on a 5% buffer, a 5-year land supply of 6.95 dwellings. So to conclude, Chairman, the report states that Breckland can demonstrate a 6.95 year supply. Even if we were to apply a 10 or 20% buffer, we would still be able to demonstrate over a 5-year housing land supply. And based on this information, planning applications could be determined in accordance with the development plan, with full weight attached to the housing supply policies, because the council can demonstrate a 5-year supply of housing land, as well as the usual other material considerations. It's been a positive report in terms of being able to demonstrate over a 5-year supply, primarily due to the high number of sites that currently have outstanding planning permission, which is around the 14,500 dwelling mark. The tables in the report do demonstrate that there will need to be a step change in delivery, especially from years 2022 onwards, of delivery figures of well over 1,000 houses per year. This is high for Breckland based on historical trends, but is in line with the adopted local plan and the trajectory therein, as well as the suggested government figures, which may well change, for the new standard housing requirement for Breckland, which we have yet to have confirmation of. Clearly there are unknowns, whether the continuing impact of COVID, whether there's a general recession, what the implications of any new housing figures will be for Breckland, but we can pick those up as time goes on. It's considered that we've taken a cautious approach to the calculation by applying these 25% discount rates, especially to major sites, and 10% on small sites. And for example, assuming that any sites that have outline permission won't start before 2022, because obviously they would need to apply for reserve matters and discharge of conditions and elements like that before they can start on site. It is a snapshot in time at the end of October, and we will update it following the end of the proper monitoring year, which is the end of March next year, and a new report will be produced at that time. And finally, Chairman, we do consider it to be a robust figure, but it is likely to be challenged at appeal, and it will be interesting to note the views of the planning inspectorate where it is discussed. Thank you, Chair.
I thought I was unmuted. Sorry. Questions from members. Councillor Attwell, please. And then Councillor Gilbert.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say it's a very comprehensive report, and that's a good news story for Breckland. Let's hope we can get the build-out rates and we're not hit too hard by COVID, etc. Andy, just a quick question. With regard to neighbourhood plans, I'll talk about the Swanton Morley neighbourhood plan. We've allocated additional land in there that can take 120 dwellings. Has that been taken account of in the figures?
It will be taken account of once applications are submitted and approved. At the moment, especially at Swanton Morley, my understanding is that they remain allocations at the moment, with no formal planning status in terms of applications. So delivery of those sites we can't pin that down at the moment. But once applications start coming in, then yes, absolutely, they'll be taken account of.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gilbert, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Andy, I think I know the answer to this one, but as you've told us, if we under-deliver on our quota, that is taken into account and added on to our new requirement when it's renewed. If we over-deliver, is that over delivery taken off that total that we now need, or is it just seen as a bonus and we still have to do the full quota for the next roll on?
That's a very good question. Based on my experience in a previous role where there was over delivery, the 5-year land supply statement sought to deduct that off the requirement. However, that is the jury's still out on that. A lot of appellants, for example, suggest that all you're doing is boosting the supply of housing land, and well done, but you've still got to meet your minimum target year on year. As I say, some authorities do deduct it, but there's no clear guidance. The clear guidance from government is where there's a shortfall, you add it in. It is silent on where there's a surplus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kyber.
Thank you, Chairman. You've referred to a step change in delivery, and looking at the numbers that would need to be focused on the 2 urban extensions. Do you see that as a realistic step change?
We've tried to apply a cautious approach to all sites, including both of the urban extensions. Analysis of the appendices attached to the report do suggest that we are spreading the delivery over a number of different sites and not completely focusing on very high delivery from the 2 sustainable urban extensions. So we hope, because there is quite a high number of different sites across the district, especially on major sites, that delivery can be spread. So it won't just be focused over the next 5 years on the 2 urban extensions.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. Andy, can I receive my prize, please, for typos?
I'll see if Santa's available.
Page 10. Sorry, my computer's gone down. Page 10, 2.12 at the bottom. Says major, should say minor.
Where is it? Page 10. 2 point what, sorry?
2.12. Last line.
Yes, you are correct. Yes.
Yeah.
You get the prize.
Thank you. I hope my prize is in the post. Thanks for that. Thank you very much, Andy. Don't go away, because I think you might be helping out on the next one. We'll move to item 8, section 106, annual infrastructure funding statement. It says executive director of place, but I think Simon and probably Andy are doing that together as well.
It's just myself, Chairman.
Okay. Well, thanks, Andy. If you want to get off, then that's fine by us. Have a good Christmas. Oh, Julie, you're waving.
Chairman, I think there's a couple of recommendations on that report. The first one is just to note, but the second one is that members agree the use of the report in development management decision making.
Okay, my computer went down. Thank you. Oh, crumbs, I've got pages of it. Can you read out that recommendation for me, please?
Yeah. The recommendation, the second recommendation is that members agree the use of the report in development management decision making. As I say, the first the first one.
Can we have an agreement on that, please? Show of hands.
That's carried, Chairman. Thank you.
And your other recommendation?
That was just to note. To note the.
Oh,
content.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, noted by attendance. That's fine. Thank you. Okay. So item 8, over to you then, please, Simon.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And this is a factual statement that we're required to produce on an annual basis. It's a new statement, so you won't have seen it before. Just in terms of a bit of background, as you know, under section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act, we can, as local planning authority, seek obligations both physically on-site and off-site to allow for mitigation of the impacts of development. They're generally sought where they're required in line with the council's up-to-date planning policies, national policy, and subject to compliance with any of the statutory provisions relating to planning obligations, in particular the community infrastructure levy regulations in dated 2010, where there is a requirement to make sure that any obligation is necessary to mitigate in relation to the development, that it's related to that development, and that effectively it's proportionate in terms of what it's asking for. Part 10A of the Community Infrastructure Levy regulations requires any contribution receiving authority, whether that's ourselves or the county council, to publish an annual infrastructure funding statement no later than the 31st of December in each calendar year. And we would need to put that on our website, subject to agreement. So you have the report and the statement in front of you, and just pulling out the highlights. At the 31st of March 2019, the total amount of Section 106 money held by the council which had not been allocated, spent or transferred totaled just over 2.7 million. And the total amount received or invoiced during the financial year from April 2019 to March this year was just over 615,000. So just looking at the obligations themselves, within that financial year, the council entered into agreements which provided a total of 15 on-site open space areas. It also entered into agreements that provided a total of 823 affordable housing units. In that financial year, 105 affordable units were actually provided and 3 open space areas created. The total money allocated in the last financial year was just under 427,000. The statement also details the amount of money spent or transferred during that financial year, which totaled just over 602,000. It concludes by saying that the amount held by the council at the 31st of March this year was just over 2.4 million. As I said at the beginning, this is a factual report that we are required to provide by legislation, and it is a factual report, and I'm asking that members note the contents prior to its publication. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And do you have any questions at all, members, on this item? Councillor Gilbert, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just occurred to me, obviously we hold a lot of money on behalf of the towns and parishes to be spent. How much is actually returned to developers because it isn't actually spent within the time? Or I'm hoping to hear that none of it is.
I can't with any guarantee put my hand on my heart and say that none is. I know very little is, but I don't have a precise figure, Councillor, and I can get that figure for you.
Yeah, so, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, over the last financial year.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Attawell.
Can I just ask, Simon, do we have any written guidance that we provide developers with regard to how we're going to apply Section 106 in terms of open space, play space, sport provision, that sort of thing? Do we actually have a written sort of supplemental planning document sort of bolt onto the local plan to assist developers?
We don't have supplementary planning guidance in respect of Section 106s generally. I do understand, and I can't again guarantee, Rebecca may be able to confirm, but I think there is general guidance on Section 106 obligations on the planning website for applicants when they submit planning applications. but we don't have a supplementary planning document.
Yeah, because I know some other local authorities nearby, South Norfolk, for instance, they've got their own guidelines for recreational provision in new residential developments. Just one example, it would be really useful, I think, if we could produce, as the local plan review and that develops, that we probably look to produce our own guidance to assist applicants and also the local community, so they know what to expect as well. I think that would be fair on them.
I think Rebecca was going to come in there.
Rebecca, please.
So we don't have a specific SPD, but we do have the open space assessment, which provides the level of detail that sits behind and was the evidence base, in fact, for the current policy. So there is guidance available, but it's not in the form of an SPD. You're absolutely right, Councillor Atterwell.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So recommendation is that members just note the contents of this report. Thank you. That would be noted by attendance as well. Thank you. So I'm going to move to item 9 is deferred applications, which we haven't got any that we're running today. So we move to item 10 for Garbaldersham, which is 3PL 2020 0799/F, which is a full application. We have Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, the applicants, joining us on screen. This is Naomi's application, but she's not available today. So Rebecca, I believe you're going to take this one.
Yep.
Thank you. Over to you then.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you see the presentation or my invite?
Yes, we can see it.
You see the presentation?
Yes.
Apologies, Chairman. Right. Apologies for that, councillors. So bear with me. So we're in Garbaldersham at Marlborough Cottage, which is off Smallworth Common. The proposal is for the erection of a timber log cabin for the use of a garden yoga studio. So this is the site location from the aerial photography, showing the wider contents of the context of the area. You can see the dwelling house, attached dwelling house, just sat to the north west of the application site. And you can see the garden area to the east there, which is going to form part of the application site. And obviously we've got a block plan showing you where that is. So here is the red line settlement boundary of Garbaldersham, showing you of this area, apologies, showing you where the application site with the big blue arrow on it, just to the north of the settlement boundary. Here is the location plan, the red line location plan. And here is the block plan showing the approximate location of where the cabin, and we've got some photos of the cabin because it's in existence as we speak, just showing you where it sits within the application site and what it looks like. So it's located just to the east of Marlborough Cottage there in front of you. Here is the proposed floor plan of the yoga studio. So quite a simple form of construction, all single story. And the elevations. And just a 3D image of the cabin to show you what it's going to look like. So I'll come on to the officer report at the moment, but it's really important for members to note that although the proposal is a retrospective application for a log cabin in this location and the cabin has been erected, and like I say, we've got some photos of that, the officers themselves have no objection in principle to the building in itself. Within the garden, its location or its appearance in terms of character or amenity, and that is set out in the officer report. Members will note, however, from the officer report and the reason for refusal, this is recommended for refusal today, that the principal reason is highway and highway safety, and of particular prevalence is the photos that I'm about to show you. So this is the site access to the site as it sits currently, bordered on both sides by well, a wall on one side and a boundary fence on the other side. And here is the access to the cottage in the background. Here's the access to the cottage looking in the other direction, so with the cottage behind you looking back onto Smallworth Common. And here are the site photos of the cabin showing it erected and in existence. And like I say, officers have no objection to the cabin in itself. Here's just the access to the cottage set a bit further back into the highway, so you can see the entrance and exit to the site. And we have some views along Smallworth Lane, specifically for members to consider. And this is the frontage of the site, showing the parking that's available. So for the visitors to the site, there's plenty of parking to the frontage of the cottage. And a view of the parking for you. And we've got some views either way along Smallworth Lane. You can see it's quite a narrow lane. Some of the boundary treatments branch out into that lane. There's no road markings, and in the other direction. So members, from your committee report, obviously this application does have some history to it. Previously, applications were made on the site and they were refused, which is a material consideration in the consideration of this application. But essentially, the application has been refused on the grounds of highway safety, in that the applicants cannot achieve the required visibility displays at the entrance and egress to the site to meet the necessary highways requirements, and that has resulted in an objection from the Highways Authority. You will note from the officer report that the applicants have made significant effort to try to address the Highways Authority's concerns with regards to coming up with a traffic management plan, and that is detailed in your officer report about how traffic and visitors to the site, and specifically the yoga studio, could be managed at times at yoga meets. But unfortunately, we're unable to condition those, we're unable to condition such a management plan in this instance, as we would be unable to enforce it, and therefore it would be unreasonable to apply such a condition to a consent, and therefore we couldn't ensure that the measures in that traffic management could be achieved. And unfortunately, on that basis, going back to the Highways Authority saying that we would be unable to condition it, they have continued to raise their objection to the site with regards to the visibility space and access and egress. Also, members will note from the officer report that the applicants have approached the local parish council about using available parking, which is a short walk from the application site, parking at the recreation ground to use, and walking to the application site to use the yoga studio. Although the parish council would be in agreement to this informal use, unfortunately, they're unable to tie up to a formal agreement. So usually we would require a Section 106 agreement to ensure that parking's there in perpetuity. Unfortunately, the parish council are unable to do that, to agree to such use, and therefore we're unable to secure that area as car parking for use of the yoga studio. And in addition, we would be unable to condition that people had to park in that area and walk to the application site. And we all know that people's behaviours would be that they could still drive direct to the application site, and the issue with highway safety occur. We have approached the Highways Authority on a number of occasions in this regard. Members will note from the supplementary report that there is an error in the officer report which says the car parking that I've just explained about at the recreation ground is closed. It's not in fact closed. Also, members will note from the supplementary that the applicants have endeavoured to do a transport statement setting out the vehicle movements on Smallworth Lane to demonstrate that it's a low trafficked road. You will note from the supplementary report that although the Highways Authority do accept that it's a low traffic road, there still is a risk in terms of highway safety, and they have considered all the information that the applicants have submitted, and they still continue to object to the application on those grounds. So it really is these two photos, members, that are particularly prevalent to this application, and the resulting highways objection, which is an objection to the application and has resulted in our recommendation for refusal of planning permission. And that is on the grounds of highway safety, on the grounds that the visibility displays required to for this application, it wouldn't meet those visibility displays, and therefore we have recommended this application for refusal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, you have 3 minutes to put your case forward. If you just switch your microphone off mute and you're ready to go. Okay, far away.
Okay, hi, I'm Gillian. I'm a registered nurse. I'm a qualified yoga teacher, and we run our own business called Yoga House. This is Jared, my husband. He works in the security industry, general manager of Yoga House, and the builder of our studio. So it's been a whole year of these 3 applications, which shows our determination and belief in this project. So before we address the highway issues, I just wanted to express our reasoning behind this project. So yoga has been scientifically proven to help with mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Mental health and physical illnesses are on the increase, and the NHS is under a huge strain. Yoga can help. We can help with this. My clients have submitted evidence of how yoga I teach has individually made positive impacts on their lives. I have clients recovering from surgery, needing rehabilitation, going through cancer treatments, struggling with mental health issues, and to simply connect to others. We need a wellbeing space, and we need to support local businesses, especially in a rural setting, and save our carbon footprint. Village halls are not adequate to practice yoga, and this has been proven by using them for 2 years. We have many letters of support to prove this. In this present situation, there are no venues that are open to practice indoor exercise. We understand the issues being raised by highways, and safety is paramount, not just for our clients, but for our family. We've taken all comments on board and made improvements to our driveway. We've installed a secured lock gate that would only be open when we meet clients at the bottom, built brand new fences which allow for better visibility, and have 24-hour security cameras. Our driveway can fit 12 cars, but we're only asking for 2 spaces for those ladies who need extra support. And by that, we mean ladies recovering from surgery, injuries, or mobility issues. We would then direct the cars in and out of the driveway to maintain utmost safety of our clients and the locals using the road. And we have provided a traffic report as requested, and it shows a 2% increase in traffic. If this application was approved, we do not believe this would make a severe impact to road safety. And as you are aware, we've secured an alternative site for car parking. We've secured this agreement with the Garbolish and Recreation Ground to use 2 car parks, which is 25 yards from our property. It's just a walk across the road. It's more than accommodating to cover the car parking for our clients. And it is paramount to maintain the safety and security of our clients of Yoga House, as well as serving our community. We'd also like to note that in previous comments, highways have supported this alternative offside car parking. Therefore, if committee minded to refuse, please consider this alternative solution and grant us permission. We are very trustworthy and reliable good people. We would do nothing that would be detrimental to the safety of our clients, and all we want to do is give back and support our community. We are asking that you see the facts and make a positive decision in support of not only rural businesses, but as a community as well. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk, and please feel free to ask us any questions.
Sorry, Chairman, you're on mute.
Yes, I have. Sorry, I pressed it and then pressed it back again. Yeah, thanks very much for that. You had 5 seconds left, so you could have added something else, but not sure what 5 seconds would have covered. Rebecca, please.
The applicants have submitted some images and some information, and I was expecting them to ask it to be sort of played at a point in their thing, so I don't want them to miss out. So I've got it here. Is that okay to show that, Chairman?
Yes, please.
Oh, apologies. So obviously there's some images of the site that you've seen before, showing there's plenty of parking and the cabin in existence. And we've got some images of Smallworth Lane for you. Obviously we've showed. And the entrance improvements, as they mentioned, they've done some vegetation clearance and entrance improvements. Unfortunately, they're unable to do any more entrance improvements because they fall outside of their ownership. But they have done work to the entrance to improve that, and that is noted in the officer report. And then here they've done their own transport traffic study, to demonstrate the how trafficked Smallworth Lane is. Like I say, we have sent these to the Highways Authority for further comment, and this is set out in the supplementary that unfortunately, although they note that it is a low trafficked lane, that doesn't adjust their previous comments.
While you're on there, can you just go back to that previous photo before the chart?
This one?
Yeah, those fence panels have been reduced quite considerably. Is that correct? The ones on the left-hand side as you're looking at the picture.
You want to ask them, because one side they own and one side they don't. Is that if Mrs. doesn't mind?
Yes, so
Mrs. Wilson,
the panels to the left, sorry.
The fence panels to the left-hand side as I'm looking at the picture are your fence panels, and they look like they've been reduced quite considerably.
Yes, sir, yes. They've been reduced to the driver's line of sight. Below.
Yeah. Because they look lower than the brick pillar where the lion is sitting on. So I don't know if you want to just flick back to yours photos, Rebecca, where that shows. There, look, it looks a lot higher there. And then if you just go back to the photos, they might have that on their photo of that lion. And again, the applicant's photos. There. It looks a lot lower to me. A lot lower. Anyway, can we go off this screen and I'll just go to the full screen, please? Okay, it's open to questions from members. I've got Councillor Attewell, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a few questions, if I can, for the applicants, so I hope they can hear me okay. How many vehicles does your family household already use in and out of that driveway? So there's 2 vehicles?
Vehicles,
Two vehicles, okay. And on the wall at the end of the driveway, do you own the lion?
Yes.
Right, because that obviously, if that wasn't there, that would help a little bit with the visibility, I would think. Just an idea. And how many people will be visiting the yoga studio at any one time?
Just 4.
Just 4. And Rebecca, is that usage limited anywhere? We can't limit the number of people that use it at any one time? Okay. I think that's me done for now. I have to say, if the fence has been lowered, which is what it clearly looks like on the photos, the visibility to me on a fairly quiet country lane doesn't seem to be as problematic as probably it was before the fence was done. I think the visibility coming from the right is probably the worst situation, rather than looking left. If you were turning left out of that driveway, I can see that's not so much of a problem, but turning right is. I'm just a little bit concerned about the lion sitting on the pillar. That's just me, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Rebecca?
We just remember, councillors, that the highways comments the visibility in both directions. So it's the brick wall that they can't, unfortunately, we can obviously condition the lion to be removed. We can condition that as part of the application. We can condition anything within the ownership of the applicants. What we can't condition is the opposite direction, councillors. So that land falls outside the applicant's control, and unfortunately they've been unable to reach an agreement with that neighbour that their boundary treatment could be lowered to meet the necessary visibility space. So I'd hate for us to single out the highways comments in relation to just one direction.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Monument, please, and then Councillor Chapman-Allen.
Just to get it absolutely clear, on the photos, it appears to me that there is a wall to the right as you look towards the property, which clearly doesn't belong to them. There is also a small piece of wall which looks as if it's front wall rather than to the side of the drive. And I'd like to know whether that belongs to the applicants in the same way as I assume that if they have a line of fence on the left-hand side, the wall across the front there with the lion on the post, anything beyond their so within their fence front wall also belongs to them. So it would be their option whether they removed those two small pieces of wall. Can we clarify?
Yes, so the all brick walls are owned by us. It's the ones that run along the highway, along the side of the highway that aren't, but anything that runs up the sides of our driveways and in somewhat 400 mil are all owned by us, including the line.
Are you okay with that, Councillor Monument?
Not quite clear. If I'm just talking about the pieces of wall within the line of the fence one side and the wall the other.
Yes. Owned by ourselves.
I think yeah. As you sit at the driveway facing to pull out, on the right hand side there was a very high fence, well not very high, but a high fence panel which obscured vision. That's been reduced in height quite considerably, and the lion is sitting on a piece of wall which I don't feel affects the visual unless you're in a very low sports car. And to the left though, the restrictive view there is in the ownership of the neighbour, of which nothing can be done, which was explained by the officer. So it's traffic that would be approaching you from the left-hand side. If it was a double carriageway road, that probably wouldn't be so much of a problem, but it is a virtually very narrow, almost single track type road. So anyone coming along that road would be sitting fairly central to the highway. I've got Councillor Attawell again. Oh no, I've got Councillor Chapman-Allen first, and then I've got Councillor Attawell and Councillor Dale.
Thank you, Chairman. Rebecca, just for clarification, you were aware that the applicant had endeavoured to get the elderly neighbour to agree to a section 106, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the reason why there could be no agreement was purely and simply because the previous owners of Marlborough Cottage unfortunately had a very bad relationship with the elderly neighbour next door, which is why they didn't feel that they could enter into a 106 and were, because of that bad relationship previously with the previous owner, it was not possible to make any alterations to the wall on that side of the property. That's right, Rebecca, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Chairman, I'll come back later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I take Councillor Dale first and then Councillor Attawell, please?
Can I ask the applicants, you obviously don't live in isolation, so you have visitors. I'm not talking about yoga visitors, but personal visitors that come to your house. So you have car movements. Do you have problems, you know, with them coming and going? And how many roughly would you have as friends in and out?
I mean, given the last kind of year, we've hardly had any visitors. We have
no, that's COVID.
To be fair, however, no, there's been absolutely no issues whatsoever. No one has any issues with seeing. I think what's in question is just because of if they grow vegetation or something, which is not there at present. There would be an issue.
No near misses.
No.
No, definitely not. No, the road, it's a 30-mile-per-hour road, and people seem to drive slower than that. Everyone's very respectful when they're driving around here. There's a lot of elderly, so no, there's definitely been nothing of a sort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Attawell, please.
Thanks, Chairman. Could we put back the photo that shows the view looking towards the driveway, please, so I can see the lion and the wall the other side of the drive as well? Okay, so can I just clarify with the applicants? I think this is what Mrs. Monument was alluding to. So you've got a fence coming down the driveway towards the road. You've got a wall coming down the driveway towards the road, and that wall that's coming towards the road, I believe, is in the ownership of the property next door. But the two bits of wall that then come along the frontage from the back where your boundary is, they sort of encroach on the driveway. Is that in your ownership?
Yes, sir.
Either side of the drive?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So could we just take that screen away, please? Thank you. So two questions for you, Rebecca. If we were minded to approve the application, could we place a condition on the application that both of those brick piers are removed to improve display at that point, either side? Because I think that would definitely help the situation. And also, are we able to ask the applicant or impose a condition where there's some kind of a customer management plan put in place?
Yes, we can put a condition on to remove their element of the brick wall, but we can't. So what we would have on any new development or any development where you're increasing the usage of the access,
yes,
we would put we would put a condition on where a 2 by 2 meter triangle splay, so a vision splay, would be kept free of obstacles up to 1 meter in height. They can't achieve that because there isn't physically space. So we could remove the pillars as they are, but that wouldn't prevent the neighbours from erecting higher pillars in that section. And that's what the Highways Authority, that's what the Highways Authority are concerned of. So they don't own the splays either side of the access point to prevent any sort of vision thing being erected. So yes, condition works, additional works to be done. And we spent a significant amount of time with the applicants considering what options they've got to improve the visibility. And unfortunately, they don't have the ownership to improve the visibility up to the Highways Authority standards.
Okay. So
with regard to the management plan, that is what the applicants have proposed, and it's set out in the committee report. And Mrs. Wilson's already outlined some of the measures that they're proposing that they can implement if they have visitors to the site. We cannot enforce such a condition, so we couldn't enforce that. So as a visitor, for a prime example to this, councillor, what about if a visitor turns up half an hour early to the application site and wants to sit and wait for their yoga appointment? When would your enforcement of standing in the drive and greeting people start from and end? So it's impossible for us to enforce such a condition, and the measures that the applicants are proposing, we're unable to place one on the application. That's not to say that the measures that they're proposing and the measures that you're proposing aren't reasonable and would help prevent an unacceptable situation. What I'm saying is it's not applicable to condition it.
Councillor Attawell coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I'm thinking, in the same token, if we have a developer, certainly larger developments, we place a condition on them to have a construction management plan, and that's enforceable. So I can't see any reason why we can't do the same on a smaller scale for this applicant. I mean, what I'm trying to do here myself, I'm trying to balance in my head the safety aspect against, we've got somebody here running a small business, and I don't want to be, crush that business and effectively stop them from operating, because that's what we're going to do if we don't come to a sort of sensible solution. It's a country lane. That wall's been there for God knows how many years. I personally, I have to say, I would be happy if there was a condition taking those 2 brick piers and the lion down. I think that would be a happy compromise, but I do think that there should be some kind of customer management plan in place, which the applicant clearly is willing to do, to manage their customers. I mean, their customers must come to the site on an appointment basis. Is there any merit in conditioning the time of day that can be operated? I don't know what the applicants think about that.
Okay, let's just see how the rest of the conversation goes with other members asking questions, and then we'll get Rebecca to finish up at the end. I've got Councillor Wilkinson and then Councillor Crane, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, it's not a question, but it's just an observation that the highways have quoted the statutory 1.5 metre driver eye line. And it looks to me from those photographs, from the latest photographs we've had from the applicant since the report's photographs, it looks like any standard vehicle would be in a driver's normal eye line, would be able to see over those obstructed walls anyway. They would see a vehicle coming.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Crane, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, my question is to Rebecca, please. When we were talking or was being spoken about a little bit ago about the people on the right-hand side that's not in ownership, surely if they took the pillars down, we gave permission, and later on the people on the right-hand side wanted to put up a 6-foot wall or a 6-foot fence, would they not have to apply for planning permission to do that? And then it would be a case of objecting to that, the people in Marlborough Cottage objecting to that, because that would spoil the display for anybody coming, what display there was for anybody coming out. Thank you.
You only need planning permission up to a metre adjacent to the highway. So set back from the highway, you can erect up to 2 metres in height without planning permission. Also, obviously, you can plant at any point without needing planning permission in that regard. So that is worth noting when you're making your decision.
Thank you. Councillor Attwell, one more go, and then I'm going to ask Councillor Chapman-Allen for her return question.
Thank you for indulging me, Chairman. Just coming back onto the point that Councillor Crane just raised about the fence. Yes, my understanding is, because I've got an issue on this in my own village, which I've been looking into recently, you do need to apply for planning permission for anything above 1 metre high adjacent to the highway, but I'd say that grass verge the other side of the wall forms part of the highway. So therefore, I would say that would be subject to planning permission.
Definitely along the frontage, Councillor Attwell, but not along the side. So the visibility display would form a triangle.
Yeah.
So you have to be, so the frontage of the triangle next to Smallworth Lane, yes, I 100% agree with you. But the back end of the triangle, so running along the fence, adjacent to the highway isn't defined anywhere. So usually we apply a 2 metre rule, but that isn't defined anywhere, councillors. So that would be 2 ways back from the concrete back into the site. But again, I can express to you, which is written in the highways comments in the report, is they're concerned about planting also, which doesn't need consent.
Councillor Chapman-Allen, would you like to come back?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I will. There have been some very interesting questions, and the chairman of the parish council was unable to come onto the meeting this afternoon. So she wanted me to make members aware, and I can follow on from the questions that have been coming, that the previous owner of Marlborough Cottage had a highways and driveway improvement business. I've no idea if he needed planning permission, as it had been in existence for some time. But these trucks and vans never caused an accident coming out of Marlborough Cottage, and the improvement that the applicant has made to the driveway make the entrance unrecognisable to what it was before they moved in. And as Councillor Attwell said, Smallworth Road is a very quiet road. It's unclassified, in fact, and it can take 2 cars passing each other, as the report states, and they travel at much less than 30 miles an hour because of its rural its rural nature. Indeed, when I park on the recreation ground almost opposite Marlborough Cottage to walk, I can see the driveway of Marlborough Cottage quite clearly, and if there are any vehicles on it. In fact, it's got better vision onto the road than many of the other 30 properties in Smallworth. And as the applicant said, we are constantly encouraged to support small businesses and rural communities. And in actual fact, with the improvements that have been made, I absolutely understand that highways have to abide by their regulations and the legislation, but I can't see a good reason not to support the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Members have had all their speak. Yes, all questions answered. Okay, so with that, we're going to go for a vote on this, please. Can you confirm with your hands that everyone has heard all of the presentation, including questions answered, etc.? And you're all prepared and ready to vote. That's fine. Thank you. So on this item for Garbolisham, which is item 3PL 2020-0799, which is a full application, your officer's recommendation on this one is one of refusal. Could I have a show of hands for refusal, please? Two. Thank you. And those against the recommendation? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8.
Oh, sorry, I thought it's 7. Sorry.
Oh. Can we just show your hands nice and clearly again, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8.
Yeah, sorry, 8. Yes, sorry.
8. Okay. So can I have from the floor, please, your recommendation and your reasons for not agreeing with the officers, please? Councillor Attawell, you've kept your hand up. I'm afraid we're not very good at lip reading. You'll need to take your.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Can I propose that the application is approved, subject to a condition that the 2 brick piers either side of the driveway and the lion are removed? I'd be happy to approve it on that basis. I think that would then minimise any risk. I think the visibility then is reasonable. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I think it's reasonable. And on the grounds that we've got a business here that we need to support, I think we should support it.
Rebecca?
Can we just check with the applicants, Chairman, that they can confirm that they've got the legal right to do that before we apply a condition in that regard?
Yes, we do.
You have. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Chapman-Allen, I gathered you were going to second that. Would you wish to add anything?
Can you hear me?
Yes, hear you now.
I'm there. Yes, I would like to second it, Chairman, and I wondered whether we might wish to add that we don't see that there will be any adverse impact on highway safety, and it's not contrary to para 109 of the MPPF.
Okay.
But
Chairman,
thanks for that. Okay, that's fine. Councillor Wilkinson, you've got your hand up for some reason.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I don't think we need to condition anything. We voted against the officer's recommendation. We gave material consideration to the application, which we feel outweighs the concerns the highways have on safety.
Chairman, if I may, I've made a proposal and the applicants have said they own the piers. Clearly the lion is a problem because of the if you're sitting in a car, you can't see past the lion. If the lion's gone and you take those piers away, that does help with the whole visibility. That's why I'm proposing it this way. So I've proposed that. I'm looking for a second for that proposal, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got hands going up everywhere now just because we decided someone's decided they want to keep the lion. I had Councillor Bowes, please. Oh, you're there.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with Councillor Wilkinson. And if his was a second proposal, I would second that. That there doesn't need to be any conditions on it.
Nigel, Mike wants to come in.
Mike, I haven't got you on screen for some reason. Oh, there you are.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Two things here, just to first to sort out this initial issue. The first counter proposal we have is that this should be granted subject to conditions. That needs to be seconded. If it is, then you need to vote on that. And if that is refused, then you can take the other proposal that it is without any conditions. But on the first proposal, Chairman, I note that in the list of things that it is proposed to be conditioned, no one said anything about keeping the height of the left-hand fence as you're looking at the property to a certain height. We have talked about getting rid of the line, but no one has said anything about the height of that fence. So I would suggest that in the first proposal, we also include that as a potential condition, that is kept to a certain height as well. Vote on that. If it passes, then it passes. If it doesn't, then you can proceed to the next proposal, which is that we grant it subject to no conditions.
Thank you. While we've got you on, Mike, are we okay with the traffic management plan?
No one said anything about that. No one said anything about that. So
no, I had it earlier, but nothing else was raised on that. That's fine. We'll let that one fall.
Not included as a condition.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Attawell, please.
Yeah, so just to clarify, Chairman, I agree with everything that Mr. Horn has said regarding also adding to the condition the fence on the left-hand side shouldn't be raised above the height that it is now. I think that's eminently sensible, and I think this is a good compromise way forward for this application.
Okay, that's fine. So we've had that proposed and seconded. So on that to agree, Julie.
Councillor Monument had her hand up.
Yeah, there were 2 or 3 other people. I'm going to go forward. If this is done, it's done. I don't want to extend this. I do apologise, Councillor Monument, unless you felt that by doing this we were going to open up a big chasm in the earth and everyone was going to fall in. No, that's fine. Thank you. So we've had this proposed and seconded. So can I take the vote that you are in agreement with giving planning permission to this item? Can you show hands, please, to agree the item? Have you got it?
I'm confused.
Subject to conditions.
Subject to conditions.
And with the conditions. That's with the conditions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7.
7.
7. Those against, please. Could you show your hands if you're against that?
3.
1, 2, 3. 3. Okay. Well, this is approved with conditions. Crumbs. I don't know what we'd do if we had something heavy on. Rebecca, please, just to finish.
Are you delegating other conditions to officers, or you only want those 2 conditions? Because obviously you're opening up a business on a site where we would usually have hours of operation and other such conditions.
Yes, I'm delegating those, please. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. It's an early Christmas present for you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Good luck.
Okay.
Thank you.
And stay safe at the same time as being flexible.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Okay, members, we're moving on. So we have my next item, that was item 10. Item 11 is applications determined by Executive Director of Place. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kyburd, you got your hand up for some reason.
One of the applications is for a change of use of a building at Kilverston, which we built. So I declare an interest in that item.
That's okay. They're there for information. We're not going to discuss the item, but thanks anyway. Item 12 is the appeal summary. Again, for your information, if anyone has a problem with any other items, they can contact the officers, the relevant officers. Councillor Gilbert, you've got a question now.
Yes, no question. I thought I looked down and we had a full result. It was so pleasing to see that every one of those appeals on that list was dismissed.
Oh, then we've not been too bad, I think, just lately. Rebecca, am I correct in saying that?
We have got an excellent appeal record, Chairman, excellent, and especially good if you compare it to other councils. Unfortunately, Councillor Gilbert, I'm not going to be able to do the same thing for you next month.
As long as it's not in Watton.
They have been quite good. Apart from the shed in the middle of nowhere out near Old Buckingham or wherever it was, which was absolutely atrocious. But that was an inspector, I think, who lives in a town or a city and likes to see big buildings and doesn't like to see trees and fields and stuff. But that's that. So with that.